Okay, so get this right. A guy survives 67 days adrift at sea. 67 days.
Hmm.
It almost seems impossible.
It's unbelievable, the story of Mel Pugin. This guy is like the ultimate survivor.
Mel Pugin, yeah. His story takes place in the Sea of Okhotsk, and it is wild. So today, we're going to do a deep dive into what happened, try and figure out how he did it.
I'm ready. I've been fascinated by this one for a while now.
So just to set the stage right, Pugin wasn't on some luxury yacht or a fancy sailboat. It gets worse, folks. He was stuck in a small, inflatable boat.
An inflatable boat, can you imagine?
I can't even imagine a day out there, let alone 67.
Nope, not for me.
The engine gave out, and he's basically stranded. And it's not just him, right? He was with his brother and his nephew.
Tragic. Unfortunately, they didn't make it.
Yeah. When they finally found Pugin, a fishing vessel rescued him. Their bodies were still in the boat with him.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
It's a lot to process. But yeah, 67 days lost in the Sea of Okhotsk.
Yeah.
And this, let me tell you, it's not exactly a tropical paradise.
No, not at all. It's considered one of the most dangerous seas in the world. Really unforgiving.
For real. So where even is it exactly?
The Sea of Okhotsk is located in the Northwest Pacific, so think Russia, Japan, that area. It's known for being crazy cold, brutal storms. They got powerful currents that can sweep you away in an instant.
Okay, so how do you even survive, right? What are the basics? We got to start there.
Right. So in a situation like this, your survival depends on being resourceful. And honestly, a bit of luck never hurts either.
Luck always helps.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, water. I mean, that's obvious. We can assume Pugin collected rainwater somehow.
Had to, right?
He had to. He probably had some supplies on board initially, the basics, but those would run out fast. Then you got to get creative.
MacGyver it up.
Exactly. You got to make do with what you got. And surprisingly, the Sea of Okhotsk, as harsh as it is, it's teeming with life, believe it or not.
You mean like food?
Food, exactly. You've got small fish, like herring and smelt. And you might not think of it, but certain types of seaweed, like kelp, those are super nutrient rich. They can keep you going.
But how do you catch fish without any fishing gear? I mean, he was in an inflatable boat.
That's the million-dollar question. Did he manage to fashion some kind of makeshift fishing tool? Did he use items from the boat, maybe parts that broke off? It's possible. We can only speculate, really.
It's wild to think about. I was reading that they found him in September. It must have been getting pretty cold by then.
Oh, for sure. As those temperatures dropped, hypothermia becomes a major threat. Staying dry would be, the most important thing. Any way to insulate yourself, you gotta take it.
So did he, try to create a shelter, maybe using parts of the boat?
Possibly. Could he have layered up with whatever clothing he had? Again, we just don't have those details. It's all speculation, but fascinating speculation nonetheless.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, the human body's ability to adapt is insane. It's one thing to think about the physical challenges, but what about, the mental toll? Being alone for that long, surrounded by nothing but water, not knowing if anyone will ever find you.
Yeah. It's hard to even fathom. The psychological impact of isolation like that would be absolutely crushing. I mean, we're talking hallucinations, maybe even paranoia. Extreme depression is almost guaranteed.
I can't even begin to imagine.
There's this thing called sea madness. Have you heard of that? It's like a delirium that sets in, from being exposed to the elements for so long, lack of sleep, and just the constant stress of survival. Could Pugin have experienced this? It's very possible.
I mean, it makes sense. And then on top of that, to lose his brother and nephew.
Yeah.
Having to carry that grief while fighting for his own life.
It's heartbreaking. The emotional burden and the weight of that situation is unimaginable.
Truly unimaginable. And, there's still so much we don't know. We mentioned the investigation into the deaths of his brother and nephew, right?
Right. The prosecutors are looking into it.
Yeah. Trying to figure out if there were any safety violations. It makes you think, Where's the line between pushing your limits and taking unnecessary risks?
Exactly. There's a responsibility that comes with venturing out into dangerous places like the Sea of Okhotsk. Were the proper safety precautions taken? Did they have the right equipment? These are the questions investigators have to ask.
It makes you wonder, what would I have done?
It does. And, it's a tragic reminder, even with all the resilience in the world, things can still go terribly wrong.
Yeah. It's a heavy story, Mel Pugin's ordeal. It's a story of survival, of loss, and a huge reminder about how fragile life is, all wrapped up into one.
It really makes you think about what matters most when you're facing those kinds of challenges. What drives us to push our limits, even when we're in danger?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And how do we balance that drive to explore with the need to protect ourselves and the people we care about?
Right. That's the balance we all have to figure out.
Such a powerful story. It leaves you with more questions than answers, almost. A real testament to the mysteries of human survival.
And the power of hope, right? Even against impossible odds.
Absolutely. Hope and resilience. Those are some powerful forces.
They really are.
Okay, well, that's our deep dive for today. Mel Pugin and 67 Days Lost at Sea. It's a story that stays with you, huh?
Definitely one for the books.
Thanks for diving in with us.
It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.